And we are live, 1 minute late. I'm sorry, I just ate one of my chocolate chip cookies. They're really good. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode. And we'll give everybody a few minutes to come online before I start painting. Let me see if I can tip this back a little bit. I'll sip my coffee. And hi, Jonathan and Josh. Oh, everybody's starting to pop up here. Oh, good. Well, you can see what I'm working on. Yes, the guys in the Quicksand. I've sort of got this at an angle. This is really hard to do, but I'll make it work. Yeah, you can see me painting some. And then I'll turn the camera. So you don't have to look at me. Anyway, hi, Mark and Melissa. I don't have my glasses on. Okay, sorry. So when I put the glasses on, it just the reflection is, well, that's not too bad. Yes, it is. You see the screen. But I'll try to paint without them, but I probably have to put them on. Hi, Larry. How you doing today? As RJ sips his coffee. Oh, you want to see this? This is one of my favorite mugs. I did teach some art at Disney University at Disney World. And anyway, my daughter, Dawn, got me this years ago. So I love that mug. And it's a big cup of coffee, which is good. So I better take the arrow off of end live video. I'll turn this thing off right in the middle of it. Ravina, hi. And I'm going to put my glasses on for a minute. Alan, boy, everybody's just reworking my Phantom Manor piece I showed you. Oh, excellent. That's a really nice piece of artwork. You have to show it to us when you're done or as you're working on it. And for those of you who have never joined me before, my name is RJ Ogren. Also, people know me as Randy. Most people that call me Randy, either it's because of my Facebook or they go back before 1985. So that's when I started going by RJ a lot. And for those of you from England, you'll know why. Now, it's been pretty crazy around here. And we do have, I am going to paint his face again. I did paint his shirt and tie and his coat so that I would be able to paint his face. And I also painted the the coat and pants of the guy that's on his shoulders. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. Let's see. Oh, Jonathan, I wish they'd sell those mugs at DU still. Yeah, I wish they would too. But you have plenty of other. Yes, I have a lot of them too. and always looking for more. I got to make one of our mug shelves wider because we've got about 90 Disney mugs now and 140 so total mugs. We spend more time in the morning trying to decide what our mood is for the day than it does to take and fix breakfasts and everything. Hey, Rick, I can't stay because we are at my daughter's softball game. Have fun, and it looks amazing. Oh, I hope they win. Tell her I'm rooting for her. So we have to come back and watch it on the when it's saved. Okay, now I've got a couple things to show you. Again, I'm going to wait to paint for a few minutes here until more people join in. And I will say this, I know what I can bring up first is that I have 5 groups now, other than my groups, which are numerous. But Crazy for Disney, Disney Parks people, now that's Disney. And they allow me to post on their sites, and I always try to see what they're up to and hit likes on theirs. And of course, Disney Fun and Games. And if you go to Disney Fun and Games, I did ask another trivia question for RJ's Walt Disney World Trivia that we try to do every Friday on there. So there's a question you can see and answer, and I will give the answer on Monday. And then I'll talk about it the following Friday on my broadcast. Just like the last one was asking the question about how many poison apples were in Snow White's Scary Adventure Walt Disney World. So it's kind of a trick question because it turns out later on, after I wasn't there, they added a basket for the witch to have in her arms by the cottage door where she was handing the apple to Snow White. And so she has one apple there, and the other one is over the cauldron, which is actually the one that I've shown online sometimes, the apple that is here in my studio, which is, right, wait a minute, you can see it, right at the top of my head, you can see it right there, hanging from some thread, and it glows in the black light because it was in Snow White's Scary Adventure, and when I left, they gave me that apple because of the very funny story and the missing apple all the time. And then, of course, they put a new one in right away. David, fantastic. Thank you. Hi. And Robin and Tracy and Dan. Oh, everybody just jumping in here. This is great. We're having so much fun. Can't have too much fun, can we? Yeah, anyway. So those are great group sites. And, of course, tell your friends about my group sites and what crazy things we do here. And the newest that I have to bring up, the newest group that just asked me to join, Emma Connolly Clay, and of course they're 6 hours ahead of us. So it is, what is it, 5 here? So it's 11 o'clock in just after 11 o'clock in England. So if they're watching me live, it's late. Have yourself a drink in England and a toast, and here we are. Her group is called Lost in Disney Magic. It's all over, but of course they have a lot of people from the British Isles that are members of that group. And I'm now posting on there too. Yay! Love England. We, in fact, are trying to plan a trip, hopefully next year, to Sweden, because I'm half Swedish, and I told you this before, and half English, and Suzanne is British and goes all the way back to the Mayflower. Yes. And so, anyway, enough of that. Weren't the apples holograms after people kept stealing them? If they are holograms now, I don't know. Of course, that would be at Snow White's Adventure in California. The last time I saw the attraction at Disney World, oh, wow, that would have been about 5 years ago. No. Yeah, I don't think the attraction was still there. But the last time I saw it some years ago, it was certainly in the 90s. It was still the apple. It was still a physical apple. So they still had that problem. And I'd be interested to see what they've done at Disneyland, because that's the only place you can see Snow White's Scary Adventure. Darn. Now, a lot of you saw, I'm going to show this. This is funny. That I was Indiana Jones at our son's 44th birthday party, which is kind of cool. It was his 44th birthday. He was born in 74 in April, which is the 4th month, on the 24th. So a lot of force in there. And he, for this another year here, he had a costume party. So everybody came as one of their favorite characters from a Steven Spielberg movie. It could have been directed by him or produced by him, but it couldn't be up through, let's see, I think he stopped it. It couldn't be up through Jurassic. I went, and Suzanne went as an older couple of Indiana Jones and Marion. And I had, of course, my hat. Now, the neat thing is that this actually is an Indiana Jones hat. You can see the symbol there. These were sold at Walt Disney World in the studios back in the early 90s. And inside, you can see where it says, let me get this just right. Indiana Jones. Yoo-hoo! I love this hat. So it is now hanging in my studio. And I had a, yo, RJ, yay for Indy. And I had a whip on my hip. I had my leather jacket, which is actually got all my patches from Vietnam on it, but it is a flight jacket. So I had that on, and I had a strap coming across my chest, and I had on the right pants to match Indy's, and a shirt that I found at earlier that day. And then also, though I had on moccasins because they were really comfortable, I said, hey, I'm an older Indy, give me a break. But I had this whip hanging from my hip, which cracked everybody up because I had this is actually a black rope, that nylon rope that I had in the basement. And because you can see the end, this end wouldn't hurt anybody. And I took the other end and doubled it back and put tape around it, and I painted it with my acrylic brown paint. It's a very old whip. That's why it's all gnarly. And of course, people says, well, try doing it. Now you can't snap this thing because you do that, it goes all over the place. But it looks really cool now, hanging next to my hat on the wall in my studio. And we're getting close to me finally building the shelves in here to finish my studio off. And the hat will have and the whip will have a special place. I'd be dangerous with a real whip. But no, can't go there. That would be bad because I'd hurt somebody. Now, so cool. Hi. Okay, so I'm actually going to paint here in just a second. Let me think real quick. Oh, yes, and please go to Ogren, SROGREN.blogspot.com. Suzanne has a very nice blog that she wrote today, and referencing one from years ago about her dad. But we have a lot of birthdays. All of our family birthdays, most of them are in April and May and in December and January. Yikes. As happens in most families. And so anyway, look at that. And also, if you're interested in a commission painting, I do have other people that expressed some interest. Recently, I'm actually booked into the first week of July now. And but just as a quick note to everybody, that my paintings generally are between $450 and $750, with some variations depending on the content and how much is in the painting. But that's from a 16 by 20 painting up to a 30 by 40 painting on stretch canvas. So there, now you know. But if you are interested, contact me, message me. I'll give you all the details of how I split the payment up and everything else. And so, all right, now, okay, I'm going to paint. About time. Put my glasses on so you can see the reflection of the laptop. And then I'm going to have some more coffee first. Oh, and then see what Brian just said there. And again, for those of you just joining, that's my Disney University mug, where I did teach some art there. Finally getting to catch you live. Hey, all right, Brian. Been so busy and new work schedule really cutting into my RJ time. I think I need some RJ time too, I know. So I have to really lean in. I have a big studio, but I'm in a very tight space to try to get you close to the canvas. So what I'm gonna do is my paintbrushes are now full of paint, so I can't quite tell what number it is, but I think this is like a 2 something. And let you know that the background on this is done, including the Quicksand. So I mixed some colors in this cup, and that's the background colors. And then I can save it So if I need to touch up later, I can do that. And wondering what I'm doing. I'm trying to push the quicksand down. So now I have some purple here, but that was for his coat. But I roughed this in. I block in colors, okay? And so what I'm going to do on his face is I'm going to block in a few different shades of his face first, and then let that dry, and then I'll go back and finish painting over the top of that. I do have some reddish brown, which is also in his coat, and along with some purple. I have some black, and I have this, which there's a flesh color in there. There is, of course, white. There is burnt sienna with some of the pink flesh tones, and then I have some burnt umber that I've mixed a little bit into. And this guy's face, though, actually is pink flesh tones, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to be careful, because when I say flesh tones, that doesn't mean that it's white. Because I try to say flesh tones because we don't want to refer to the color as just the only flesh tone, because so many of us have different shades of skin. Trying not to get myself in trouble here. So anyway, what I'll do first is just using this pink flesh tone. Yeah, his face goes more whitish, and a little bit of a yellow tone to it. But right now, I'm just going to put in this pink flesh tone just to block out some color. And okay, we'll take a little bit of black here around his eye. Let's blend that in real quick. Okay, and there we go. My thing of water is right behind me here, in this tight space. It's ironic, this topic was how I found you, and Haunted Mansion is everything to me. Wow, well, that's cool. Yes, that's right. It was because of the Haunted Mansion. I love the Haunted Mansion. I don't know if I could live in the Haunted Mansion, but it would be fun to. I was in there all night once. Of course, that's when we were filming the commercial. I was using a little black. I'm going to use a little bit of the burnt umber right here, and come over here and put a little bit onto his nose. Right at the bridge of your nose, it indents right there. It always creates a shadow, because then your ridge line right above it comes out further. And, okay. Come down here. I'm going to stand up in a second, because the light I have higher up needs to come down. Hopefully not blind everybody. I think you can still see that. It got dark here. It's been a cloudy day, and now it's possibility of rain. But the good thing is it'll help our new grass grow. Yay! And it's already coming up. They took 4 inches off of our backyard a few weeks back, and put in all new sod, and and of course then put down grass seed, and they put down the hay. Our dog's toenails keep getting caught in the netting that's on top of it. So she's happy that it's finally grass coming up. We went and had her nails clipped. So I'm using both colors here, and I'm just roughing this in. Now I'm going to go to some black on this side. This guy does have a beard that goes all the way down here. I tried growing a beard once. That looks stupid. Actually, when I was in the Navy, I spent about 4 or 5 weeks because I can grow one very quickly, and I really don't like beards, but I thought it'd be fun to do an Abe Lincoln beard. Boy, did I look dumb. Um, certainly didn't look like Abe Lincoln. I know that. Uh, and my mustache, when I was a hippie, came all the way down here on both sides. And I had hair, I had a lot of hair that came all the way across my forehead and was quite long. Those were the days. Those were the days. Anyway, so, oh, and our play for Bard and the Burbs opens on May 4th here in the Chicago area in Lisle, outside Chicago. And it's a very funny Shakespeare play. And we've got a phenomenal cast. Of course, I always say that, but it really is a great cast and very funny. So if you're in the area and want to come see a great show, we play on the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then the following weekend. So, all right. Let's paint under his nose here. I wanted to have something I could do today that was a little more going on with it, and a bigger picture for you to see. I'm using a little bit of the burnt sienna that has the flesh tone in it. And then back to some burnt umber. Hey, are we having fun or what? Look at this. Hey, that guy's coming out. Let's do your nose. Let's get his nose done. Then I'll stop and look and see if anybody's asked a question. And yeah, I have to go Sunday at 10 in the morning to paint the last part of the set, because the set for this, it's in the round. They're doing this play, Much Ado About Nothing, and it is it's on 2 opposing walls. I painted with the help of our wonderful future granddaughter-in-law Libby, who's also an artist. We painted some Italian scenes with a lake and some really big trees and stuff. But we have to go back and paint the fountain, which is in the center of the stage area. So, and it won't take that long. It's a big fountain. Actually, it's not a fountain anymore. It was going to be a fountain, but we changed it to a pond, an oblong pond. Oh, all right. Let me stop for a second. Let's see. Ask a question. Roberto, do you ever work on oils? If so, do you recommend painting light values first and using tapered, layered gloss to fill in color, or do you keep this same technique. I started in oils years ago when I first started college. Actually, I started in high school. I wasn't very good at paintings I attempted then because I didn't have anybody to instruct me in just what I was doing. But so the paintings got a little muddy. But I did paint in oils for about 7 or 8 years. And then I switched to acrylics. Actually, the first acrylic painting I did was the commissioned portrait for Liza Minnelli. And I had to learn very quickly how to change to that. And I love it. But when I worked in oils, golly, I'm trying to remember what I was doing. Definitely light values first. You have to with oils, and then come back in with your darker colors. Um, you can, and you put it on thin to block it in, obviously, and because oils, of course, take forever to dry. That's why I like acrylics, because it dries within 5-10 minutes, depending on what color it is. David, trying to be politically correct. In that sense, yes, because I realized when I was talking to high school students, art classes and stuff, I had a class that was all different types of people, and same thing in the theater. You know, we are quite a blend of people, and I don't want to just say flesh color and refer to just one color of flesh. Okay, enough of that. Oh, good. I answered your question then. Yes, I don't know that I could paint very well in oils. I'd have to work at it. I'm sure I could, but I'd have to work at it. Probably get frustrated because I keep going, come on, hurry up and dry, hurry up and dry. And I've learned techniques with working in acrylics to make the paintings look like oil paintings using blending methods. I blend very quickly when it's wet, and then I do dry brushing on top of that. So yeah, thank you, Roberto. All right, so I will go back to how are we doing on time. Oh, we're only about a half an hour in. Okay, it'd be nice if I got some of this done before I depart. Suzanne and I were very excited and surprised today that this afternoon, because we had two very good actor friends that we had lost touch with in Orlando, and they have reconnected with us, and we are thrilled because God, it's been years, and you know we don't like to lose touch with good friends. Okay, now under his lip here, put some, and let me get some black. Paint inside his mouth. This guy's got some very strange teeth. Okay. Okay, more black. We'll bring it over this way. Okay, and then down this side of his face, you can see a little bit of it. Okay, should we just leave him with one eye? Let me put a little bit of white. He's going to have very white teeth for the moment. And a little bit of white on his lower lip. And a little bit flesh tone. Okay, that's good for the moment. And oh, yeah, let's do this. Let's do the line between his nose and upper lip. Here. Well, no, usually when I'm painting, I have the shades open. It's daytime, unless I'm doing the black light. And I have a lot of light. And right now, the light outside is terrible. And I've got a shade open behind me, but it's not helping much. And angled like I am here, and I've got this light that's hooked to the easel up here. And I don't want to bring it down too far. It'll obscure totally what we're doing. Go with a little bit of burnt umber. Let's see, we got that there. Put that in. Go around this eye. Okay, and then we will put in some, oops, there's too much on there. Okay, we got that, and let's quickly put in his eyelash. Talk amongst yourselves. Yeah. So, okay. Okay, you got that? Got that. A little bit of white in his eyes for the moment, which will not be pure white when I go in with the final. His eyes. Now, a little trick, I may have mentioned this before, when you're doing a portrait of somebody and it doesn't, you really don't see it when you're looking at somebody because of light. You might sometimes see the shade coming across from their eyelid across the top of the eye. But when you're doing a portrait, if you just paint it, it'll shade to a little gray on each side, possibly with a little bit of blue, but it'll you need to shade across, including over the pupil, to make it look real. If you don't do it, it looks like their eyes are like this, which looks really strange. I learned that many, many years ago. Did I ever work with Mark Davis? Very good question. Yes, Roberto. Mark Davis, believe it or not, was one of the people who interviewed me for the position at Walt Disney World as one of the original management audio animatronic artists. We did all the figures and all the attractions. We did the sets. We did the props. We worked on all the murals in the Magic Kingdom. And our control, our bosses were actually from the Hollywood studios back then. This was in the 70s and very early 80s. And then it all changed. They don't have that control over Disney World anymore from the studios, from the artists there. But we loved it because Wathel Rogers would come, Leota Toombs would come out, Mark Davis came out a few times, and actually more than a few times. And they would spend anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 days with us, and we would go out in the mornings once the attractions were open, but not open to the public yet. The park wasn't open, and we would do ride-throughs, like riding through It's a Small World. And our studio was a trailer. I posted a picture of it earlier today behind Small World, and we could look out our front, see the back of Small World, look up the left, up the hill, and see 20,000 leagues, 20K, we called it. And of course, we could see up above the entrance to the main tunnel, but from our viewpoint back there, we couldn't see the castle, even though it was close by. And then off to our right, we could see the whole back of Haunted Mansion. And but we would go on a ride through, and Mark would point out either things that needed to be added, or maybe weren't the right color, which he'd do once in a while. We go, how does he do that? And it was amazing. Loved working with him. Loved getting to know Alice Davis. In fact, she wrote the foreword for our first book, Together in a Dream. And she, of course, is known also as a Disney legend for creating costumes for a lot of the figures in Small World and in Pirates of the Caribbean and so on. So, yeah, I couldn't believe it either. I was interviewed by, Frank Thomas was one of the people that interviewed me, and I couldn't figure out why he was interviewing me for the type of job. Turned out he was at Disney World, because there were 13 other artists beside myself who were trying to get this fourth position. And I got very lucky that I got it, and it changed my life. And it turned out he was looking at artists because they were hiring a lot of new young animators. And in fact, within the next year, Frank called me at our studio, and offered me a job as an animator, which I, after a few days, turned down because I would have taken a drastic cut in pay. I was management at Disney World. And I wasn't crazy, neither of us, Suzanne nor I, crazy about living in LA. And plus, I would have been probably older than a lot of the animators at that time. By that time, I was 33, and I would have started on the bottom. So it was a tough decision to make. If I'd been offered the job 10 years earlier, I probably would have jumped at it. So, but I still got to work with Mark Davis. I got to know Frank Thomas quite well, and Leota. It was a magical, incredible time. Okay, let me answer some other questions. Okay, that's the one on Mark. What character is this? This actually is the three men in the quicksand. You can see as I tilt this up, the other guy sitting on his. Well, here, let's do this. The other guy. Oh, I can get all. Yeah, you can't see it because the light is down lower. But yeah, he's cut off down here. These are. This is the stretch room. One of the stretch room paintings, which actually we did replace those a couple times when I was there. That was kind of scary helping them, because we had to make sure the maintenance people had to be very careful, because they had a tendency to get a little rough putting stuff in, and they were on a roll. You know, we didn't want, as they stretched out, we didn't want them to rip them. That's why we were replacing them, because they had eventually got hung up on something and would rip them. And the originals, which were done by Mark Davis and were at Disneyland Haunted Mansion for a few years, eventually they were wearing out, and they had to paint new ones. Back then, they had to paint them. And artists, and these were much bigger than what I'm doing here. They're like twice as big, I would say, 2.5 times larger. And they would have them up high, all 4 canvases. The guy would be painting with a brush on a stick and everything else. Just sometimes how I paint sets. So, but and eventually they went to printed on canvas rolls. So, oh man, to work at Disney in its heyday, I will have to agree with you. It's different now. In fact, I just found out last week that the artists I was talking to an audio animatronic artist that is working on putting the figures in and working on them over at the studios with all the new stuff going in. And he said he had heard that the artists that replaced us, well, actually, yeah, I think maybe one or two of them still left. But in 95, 90, no, actually about only 5 years, what am I saying, about 2010 or 11, he thinks they were moved to the back of the property, back to one of the big warehouses, which is unfortunate because to do what we did, we needed to be close into the park because we would have sometimes, a lot of times actually, we'd get calls right in the middle of the day when guests are watching shows and we had to run up and make an emergency repair. And that's how Tom and I kept getting caught in shows sometimes. We try to hide, but it usually backfired on us. Very funny stories. Okay, then let's see here. Okay. All right. Yes, cool. All right. It is cool. Now, what time is it? Okay, yeah, all right. Coffee. Cool mug. I show it every time. Okay, I showed you my Indiana Jones hat. If anybody want to see it and you've just joined, you have to go back and see it. And my whip. But here I'm going to show you a couple other things. This is the camera that I used in Vietnam on 2 tours over there. And the mirror inside was, it's a Minolta and doesn't work anymore. I've left it this way as a sad memento. The mirror inside was broken and cracked in the explosion on a swift boat. So not a happy time. And I was only 10 days from getting out. And believe it or not, this is my helmet that I had. I actually snuck it in my sea bag to get it out of there. And it's got some indentations and stuff where it got hit by shrapnel. I got a piece of shrapnel in my side of my head right here and in my hand and other parts. So anyway, but I'm fine. Yes, I do have PTSD. Just not go there. That's enough. I'm being treated quite well by one of the really good veterans hospitals, and so I hope it stays that way here in Chicago. Oh, thank you, Larry. Thank you for your service. I appreciate that. I really do. Now, before I forget, let me see if there's anything else I was going to bring up. I write myself notes. No, gosh. I said anything. There's nothing left to say. I think it's dry. If not, it would have been funny if I'd done that and smeared the whole thing down there. So, oh my goodness, Dan, you just wrote a long thing here. Former cast in Frontierland 06-07. Oh, cool. I don't know where they work on the figures now, but there was a cage out behind us at Splash Mountain where all from all over the park need where, wait a minute. Oh, we're animatronics from all over the park in need of mechanical aesthetic work. We're stored temporarily. I never happened to see anyone in Splash painting figures, but with so many, with as many as we had, it must have been quite a job. Did you ever work on Splash or Thunder? I did not get to work on Splash Mountain. It was done right after, not long after I left. I did do Big Thunder. I did work on that. Someone was being installed, which was a lot of fun. And of course, we worked on all the figures and all the attractions. And you're right. Actually, that in, oh gosh, what was it? I think in around 1988, I used to go out and visit the other artists all the time, that, including Glenn, who I trained to take my place. And he was there for until 94, 95 when he retired. And they around late 80s or early 90, somewhere there. We left the Orlando area in 94, but they moved them to a trailer. They told them we were going to give them a new studio. Gave them a triple wide trailer instead of a double wide behind Splash Mountain. And so it's quite possible that in 06, 07, they were still doing figures inside that trailer if it was there. And that's why you kept seeing the figures, because if you look on my pictures on my sites, you'll see the picture of the trailer with one of the mermaids from 20K sitting out there with no hair on her, no wig. So yeah, because like I said, it appears they didn't move to the back of the Disney property until about 5 or 6 years ago. That's no fun. We had more fun being in close with everything. Besides, people were afraid to come out and visit us because we pulled practical jokes all the time. And I did tell this in, I think it's in our second book, Remembering the Magic, and we are working on the third book in the series that will be done by this August and on its way to the printer, or the publisher, I mean, and hopefully to the printer soon after. But we had electrical conduit pipes, which the opening in them, they were, I believe they were, I don't know what they were made of, aluminum? Probably not, whatever. But they were used for electrical, put wires through. And we had 2-foot lengths of it. And sometimes we would use these things for different things on fixing figures or whatever, or adding it to something. I mean, all kinds of strange stuff in the studios. And we, I forgot which one of us did it, but we worked with sculpting clay, which stays, it's not real moist, but it stays soft and pliable. And we rolled one of these up and put it in that, and it was like a blowgun. And we could shoot a piece of clay about 50 to 75 feet with surprisingly good accuracy. Actually, one day the 4 of us got into a pitched battle in the studio for about 15 minutes. We put goggles on, safety goggles. And there were 2 of us at one end and 2 at the other. Good thing nobody came in. But when people would come to the studio, we had a front door, and we had a side door with a ramp, because we could bring in heavy pieces into the studio that way. And but anyway, when they would walk out and start heading back over to the main tunnel entrance, it was an angle going away from us. And we'd wait until they were about 30, 40 feet away, and one of us be looking out the window, and we'd go now. And one person would stick that blowgun slightly out through the open door and shoot him in the back. And of course, it hit him, and because of the asphalt parking lot and everything, they couldn't see what it was that hit him. Of course, by that time, the doors closed, and they'd come running back in, and we'd all be sitting at our big artist desks and painting on something or whatever. And they went, "Did you hit me with something?" What are you talking about? So eventually they would leave, and they keep looking back, and then they turn their head, we'd hit them again, and then they'd start running the rest of the way to the tunnel. It only lasted for a few weeks, because then everybody got wind of it. Nobody wanted to come out to see us. Okay. Okay. Dan, there was an Imagineering trailer that shared an entrance deck with our operations management. We were warned to learn which trailer was ours. They said Imagineering liked their secrets. Well, that's true. So that would have been them, because we were Imagineers. We just had our own cute little trailer, double wide trailer with a blacklight room in it. The stalactites hanging from the ceiling over this big table in our one work area in the center, because we would use urethane the yellow foam urethane for things, and we would sometimes cap something. We pour it in a mold, and we'd hold it as long as we could, and then let go, and it would fly up to the ceiling and drip down. It was very strange. Mark's original Thunder Mesa would have been so cool. I'm curious, did you work on any concealed projects? Not really. No, I think I'd remember that. No, I think everything we worked on could be seen, well, for the most part. I mean, if you want to say the ghosts were concealed in the mansion that are in the ballroom, because we worked on those. They were above and below you when you ride through, and you see their reflection. So, but not really. Canceled projects. Wait a minute. Canceled projects. Thank you, Robert. Oh, yeah, actually we did. Now that I know what you said. I'm sorry. I need more coffee. I need some brandy in my coffee, maybe. Huh? It's way too early for that. I'll fall asleep. Yes, we took care of the models, the huge model of Epcot. And we used to, once a month, we would go up first thing in the morning, because we'd always get there 2 hours before the Magic Kingdom would open. And we'd split up and go check different attractions for emergency repairs or see what something needed to be taken out or whatever was going on. Because we did have the ability to close the show down if it was something really bad. But we also would go up on Main Street to the hospitality house, that's what it was called, I remember, and where a lot of you got to see, oh God, his name went right out of my head. Okay, forget that one. Anyway, but they used to have the big model of Epcot. It was huge, and we would take our shoes off and we just have our socks on, and we would walk all over the model and dust it and make sure there were no busted pieces. If there were, we had to repair them, and they had to look really good. But also, they had the original attractions that were going to go in Future World at the opening of the park, and they were spectacular, as were the attractions, mainly the ones in the different countries. And none of them ended up being made except Mexico. Mexico is the epitome of what the attractions were supposed to be in England, in France, in Germany. Germany, you were supposed to take a boat on the Rhine and ride through. In France, you were supposed to sit at a sidewalk cafe, a table and chairs, and be served Coke and stuff, whatever, and ride through Paris. In England, you were supposed to take a little double-decker bus and ride through London and parts of England. And let's see, what else was there? The land pavilion was spectacular. You actually walked through basically a multi-tiered, very high jungle encased in glass, all these different angles. And I wish now I had taken pictures. Any pictures that I was able to take, I had to be careful because we weren't supposed to do that. I certainly couldn't take pictures of those, but they were incredible. They never got built because they couldn't find the money from the countries or the businesses to actually do those, which is sad. And Mexico is the only one. So that was made to look like when you were supposed to go into France, you'd see some of the outside of whatever, I forgot what the exterior was supposed to look like, but you walked in like you do in Mexico, into the pyramid, and you walked into the country at night. And I know, it was Sweden or Norway they had one for, where you'd walk in and actually you would see a part of a big ocean liner there and northern lights and everything, and it was really, really cool stuff. And it was so sad that it never got built that way. If Walt had been alive, Walt was known for, I'm almost done, I'm not going to paint anymore right now, sorry, but you see what I did, and it's dry. But Walt would have built them the way they were originally designed, because he was famous for telling his brother to find the money. Walt would say, we're going to build it regardless. And of course, after he died and Roy took over, of course, he Magic Kingdom opened. Roy was gone then, and then I can't think of their names now, but the others that took over, it became a thing of trying to make the money first before they spent the money, and that just was not going to work. So stuff didn't happen, because Epcot, you do know, it was called the Experimental Prototype City of Tomorrow, not the Community of Tomorrow. That was changed because the original concept was that all of Epcot was going to be 3 or 4 levels, and trucks would be on the bottom level. Next were the cars, and it's 3 levels. Next were the people. And so you'd have open walk areas and no vehicles of any kind, except, of course, boats and possibly and monorails coming through. But it was also going to be covered with a huge, humongous dome and be temperature controlled. And they were building it, supposed to build it so that the people that worked at Epcot could live at Epcot. Wow. So sad. It didn't happen, but anyway. Yeah, rad. I'll go along with that. It's a shame. Okay, so you saw me painting some today. You saw my Indiana Jones and my other crazy stuff, and my hat, which actually is. And for those of you who weren't here earlier, I wore this at our son's birthday party, going as Indiana Jones, and it actually, there's the thing from Indiana. This actually is an official Indiana Jones hat. See it on the headband that I got at the studios when the studios opened. Too bad they don't sell them anymore. Yes, insane. Okay, everybody, thank you again for joining me. It was a pleasure having all of you here. I will be back next week, not in blacklight. I think I've got some others coming up in the future, but I do have 7, 8 paintings lined up after I finish this one, and another stretch room for the same person. And but next week I will be working on something different. So everybody, have a magical weekend. If you're at Disney, have a fun time. And actually, we're hoping that we might be down there in October for our high school reunion, of all things, which actually was, our high school was in Miami, but they decided to have this particular reunion in Orlando, which would be great for us, because we wouldn't have to stay at the hotel. We can stay with friends, have a great time, and et cetera, and go to Disney. Okay, thank you, Larry, Roberto, and everybody else. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.